Hello, and you're very welcome to the next in our series of our information webinars on teaching English abroad. Today, I am joined by the most wonderful Brad Brennan, and he has so much experience about teaching in Korea and recruitment of teachers in Korea that this is going to be a real treat for us today. My name is Rosie Mansfield, and I'm the Managing Director of Premier TEFL. And Brad is one of our new partners for helping us to send teachers to really good jobs in Korea. And so in a few seconds, I'll hand over to Brad. First, let me tell you a little bit about him. Brad first went to Korea 25 years ago as an ESL teacher himself. And then for around about the last 15 years, he has been working to help other people find good, secure, trustworthy jobs in Korea. He's a professor, and he has spent much of his time between Korea and the US. So I'm going to hand over to Brad now, give him a very warm welcome, and he's going to give us a presentation today on the jobs that he can help people to get in South Korea. Brad, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Rosie. Thank you everybody for attending and for the people who are watching this video. Let me go ahead and just say I'm very honored to be able to give this presentation because, I love talking about Korea. As Rosie said, I worked for the Korean government for about 10 years, and my job was promoting Korea as a tourist destination. So I have an affinity for talking about Korea. And of course, owning a recruitment agency for 15 years has really kind of been, living my dream kind of. So let me go ahead and open my presentation real quick. So all of you are probably wondering, or no, I'm sure all of you have an idea of why you want to teach in Korea. But let me ask a couple questions to start off. So I always kind of like to ask everybody, because most people don't know well, if anybody wants to put in a guess, but how big do you think South Korea is? I can't see anybody in my, Rosie, I can't, during my presentation, I can't see anything. So let me know if there's someone who has an answer to that. But I'll just go ahead and give you the answer. I always say that South Korea is the size of the state of Indiana. Here you can see Indiana is the little blue one right there, just below Michigan and next to Indiana. So when you look at that state and you think that state only has 4 million people, but it's a pretty big state. But Korea has 52 million people. And why is that important? Well, if you've ever been to Indiana, you realize that how big it is, and then when you think of South Korea, people just can't really put it into perspective. And if you look at the UK, maybe South Korea is about the same size as the Midlands. And when you think 52 million people, the density of the population is amazing. It's the 11th most populated country, densely populated country in the world, but it's the third most densely populated when you take out the countries with under 5 million population. Why is Korea like Korea? Yes, there. Okay, so another way to think about it is if you think of that state of Indiana, South Korea has about 30 or 40 cities that are about the same size as the largest cities in the United States. So imagine putting the 30 largest cities of the United States into Indiana. Then you put them into Northwest Indiana, and you think of like a donut. That donut, the center part is Seoul, about 12 million people, and that large part of the donut is about 17 million people. And right next to that donut is like a scone, and that scone is Incheon. Incheon's 4 million people. So that's about 30 million people in just the northwest suburbs of Indiana. So it really is amazing when you think about how densely populated and how easy it is to travel around. So everybody knows about Seoul, and Seoul being the capital and the pretty much the epicenter of what it is to be Korea. But Seoul is actually the hardest place to get placed, though. We're sending 5 to 10 teachers for every placement, for every job. They're very picky. They're looking for people with experience, education, English majors, and they prefer North American accents. So people from all over any of the English-speaking countries can get placed there, but there are definite preferences. Um, and Seoul is pretty much like Manhattan. And you can see here, this is right there in Cheongsu. That's the Lotte Tower, the new Lotte Tower. That's pretty much in the, yes?
I'm just going to jump in there. The slides aren't coming up on the presentation for us. So I think, Brad, you might need to just hit the screen share button in the bottom.
Oh, yeah, hold on. Let me get out. That's why I'm not seeing it. Okay. Multiple share simultaneously, advanced sharing options.
If you, in the controls at the bottom of Zoom, do you see the button that says share screen?
Yep.
And if you press that, then it should give you the chance to share the window where your presentation is. There we go.
Okay, sorry. You couldn't see it at all before?
No.
Okay, sorry. Let me open that one.
But I was getting hungry thinking about donuts and scones.
Okay. Can you see that now?
Yes, perfect. Perfect.
No, I know, me too. And it's the evening time here, so that's the perfect time for a bit of a snack. So sorry, I didn't realize you weren't seeing my my presentation. So here, as I was saying, there you go for Seoul, and then for the Lotte Tower. But you know, Korea is more than Seoul. So the reason I say that is every person says, I want to be placed in Seoul. And I say, well, what about other cities or other places? They have no idea. So that's why I want to try to, educate everybody about, Korea has so many good places to be placed. And when you look at Gyeonggi-do, as I said, Seoul is the center of the donut, and the big part of the donut is Gyeonggi-do. And Gyeonggi-do has 17 million people. There's over a dozen cities that have 1 million people. And my hometown is Tacoma, Washington, the second largest city in Washington state. Seattle is the biggest city, and that's 700,000 people. There are 12 satellite cities that surround Seoul within 20 to 40 minutes down to central Seoul that have over 1 million people. So imagine having like a dozen Seattles all surrounding Manhattan. That's kind of what Seoul and Gyeonggi-do is. And here, like you see on the left, that's Bucheon. That's where I lived for 7 years. That's Weave, the state. And the one on the right, that's Bundang. There's the three major satellite cities, Bucheon, Bundang, and Ilsan. And then those are the older ones. And then now there's Gimpo, there's Paju, there's so many different satellite cities. And each one of the satellite cities has its own subway that goes into central Seoul. And here on the left, that's Ilsan that I was saying, that's west of Seoul. Beautiful, huge lake park. On the right is Gimpo, another huge, especially newly developed area that's just the southwest part of Seoul in Gyeonggi-do. And they're beautiful. They're all high-rise apartments. You can see they built canals, lakes, everything. And there's also Suwon, Songnam, Hanam, Guri, Namyeongju, Ujeongbu. This is where we place a lot of teachers, is especially in Gyeonggi-do. Why? You're only 20 to 40 minutes from central Seoul, but you have more of like the family living. It has its own city center, it has its own subway, etc. So that's very important for people who want to have an urban placement. We don't place in countryside unless someone asks, and then we try to find a position for them. We only place in urban placements in large, medium, or small cities. A medium city is 500,000 people. That's like Tacoma, Washington, the second largest city in Washington state. Washington has 13 million people, but a small city is 300,000 people or less, which is still a big city back home. So major cities are 1 million plus, and there's got to be over 30 cities that have over 1 million people. And like I said, in just Gyeonggi-do alone, the big part of the donut, there's over a dozen cities that have 1 million, and there's about another dozen that have about 500,000 or less. I personally have been living in Incheon for the last 6 years. We're only 4 stops away from Incheon International Airport, but it only takes 20 minutes by subway. And if we go from where I live in Chona International City, you can see on the left, that's Songdo. My city's just like that, but we have a massive lake park. It's beautiful canal system. You can ride boats and everything, but it only takes 36 minutes to get from Chona to Seoul Station, which is the dead center of Seoul. And I'm sorry, just a quick one here, Rosie, you'll find this funny. One of my best mates is about 3 stops away from Brighton. We went and visited him right before the pandemic. We went from Brighton to London and back. It cost 26 quid round trip per person for my wife, my son, and my friend. We did the same thing here in Chona. We went all over Seoul, came back. My friend's like, well, how much do I owe you, man? It's got to be expensive. I said, dude, we paid like $1.50 to get into Seoul, about $1 in Seoul and about $1.50 back. And that's just using the credit card with the through fare. Transportation is dirt cheap and it's amazing. It's all got free Wi-Fi, it's super clean. It runs just boom, 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 never late. And it's super cheap. The one on the right there, another major city, Daegu. Daegu is one of our most popular cities to place teachers. Why? It's 2.8 million people. It's an hour north of Busan. But Daegu, when we place foreign teachers there, they never leave. And if they do, they just go home. They don't go to other cities in Korea. Why? Daegu is 2.8 million people, but all of the expat bars and restaurants are in a 2-block radius. So if you go every weekend for a month, you get to know everybody, and they all have like softball leagues, soccer leagues, everything. So it's super popular. And Busan, of course, Busan's 3 million or 4 million, almost 4 million people. Gwangju is 1.5 million people. And just I was saying, Gwangju, you see on the left-hand side there, that's the south western part of Korea. And on the right, you can see that's Busan, that's Haeundae Beach. Normally in that photo, you will see 1 million people on that beach every day during the summer. It's unbelievable how many people flock there. It's beautiful. Busan is really good. It's been developed so much now, it's crazy. Medium cities, 500,000. Small cities, I said 300,000. And coastal and islands. We do place, not so many, but we do place on Jeju Island. Jeju Island is literally the Hawaii of Korea. I kind of said, well, it's not exactly Hawaii, but it's beautiful and it looks nothing like it. It's a semi-tropical place. And if you want coastal, remember, Korea is a peninsula. I always say Korea is like Ireland. Why? It's an island. You can't go north. That's North Korea. There's ocean to the west, to the east, to the south. So South Korea has lots and lots of coastal cities. We place in a lot, especially the smaller cities like 300,000, 400,000. Changwon, Masan, Jinju, Jinhae, Pohang, all along the coast. So if you want to be near the ocean, but also be in an urban city, no problem. And you'll have like a smaller field, but you'll still have that urban feel. So 5 reasons to teach in South Korea. Well, the benefits, it's amazing. Think about how much the cost of living has gone up in the UK or in America and Canada. But in Korea, even though it's gone up here, it's still way cheaper, especially if you like Korean food. The benefits here, you get free housing. And later in the presentation, I'll show you 15 different examples of 15 different schools that we're working with, their housing, sample photos. National health insurance. As an American, we don't have national health care, but here in Korea, you pay $50 a month and everything's included. You see a doctor, it's $20. Or for example, every year I happen to throw my back out, I go to a chiropractor, have an hour treatment, it costs $7. My wife complained, why did you go to that one? If you went to that one, it's only $5 for an hour visit. And I'm like, it's $7. And she's like, I don't care, you could have went for $5. And I'm like, it's like free money. It's amazing, it's like, anyway, if you go see a doctor, you pay $5 copay, and then you get a week's worth of medicine at the pharmacy, and you pay $2 US for a week's worth of medicine. It's just unbelievable. I mean, at least in the UK, you have national health care, so you understand what I'm saying, but in Korea, it's great. You get a bonus. You work 12 months, you get paid for 13. You get a pension. Not every country has it. I know the UK, Canada, America does, where you pay about $100 per month into the pension. The school matches that $100. So you have about $200 per month and about 4 or 5 or 6% interest. So at the end of the year, you get that $2,400 plus interest. Or if you stay 5 years, you get it all plus interest. If you stay 10 plus years, you can take either a lump sum plus interest or an annuity for life at 65. Airfare. Most schools, more than, I guess, 5 years ago, they would give round trip airfare, but now as the increase in the amount of people that want to come teach in Korea, most schools only provide a one-way ticket to Korea, or if you're, let's say, on a second year, you can negotiate for a one-way ticket home instead of the one-way ticket since you're already in Korea. And they'll reimburse you on your first payday. And just make sure that you bring about $1,000 to last you about 2 months. Why? You come about a week to 10 days to 2 weeks before for training, right? Then you work for a month and then you have to get paid the following month. So normally it's at least 5 or 6 weeks before you get your first pay. Oops, sorry, someone's trying to Skype call me there. There's one of my teachers. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh, airfare, low cost of living. I was just talking about that. You know, the culture and the people, I'm sure everybody here that's joining in already has an affinity for South Korea. You know, who doesn't? You know, with the K-pop, the K-culture, the K-dramas. Korea is a hip place to be. You know, you go into Seoul, you go into major cities, you have these massive, you know, TVs on top of all the buildings. And, you know, it's just so much fun. The shopping, the going to all of the hip places for, you know, the university areas, the cultural areas. And you know what? It's really funny. You get culture shock when you come to Korea. Everybody goes through it, right? It's just the same as, you know, living in any foreign country. You do have some sort of culture shock from a little bit to a lot. But Korea is the only country where I went home and I had reverse culture. Sorry about that. And I was saying that is why, is because, you know, have you ever been to a place where kids just run up to you and say, "Hi, my name is Kichi Bum, nice to meet you," and they run away, and then they treat you like a rock star because, you know what, they're so interested and they want to speak to you in English because they see that you're a foreigner. That is just an amazing feeling. When you go back home, you feel a little bit like a wallflower because, you know, people don't talk to you. Just like random people on the street will walk up to you and just say hi. For example, last week, I was in the subway station. This middle school girl walks out, you know, so cute. And she went, "Excuse me, are you lost? May I help you?" And then I talked to her for a minute and she's like, "May I introduce myself to you? Hi, my name is Kim Yuna. I am in second grade middle school." And then she gives me this whole thing and we ended up talking for 40 minutes and she just wanted to practice her English. And that's the thing that you miss when you go home, because where else do you get that kind of interaction with local people who are so excited to speak to you in English? It's amazing. So in here, that's just a photo of one of the teachers with a class, and that's really cool because, you know, Korea is a collectivist society, whereas most Western countries are individualistic societies. So every month they'll have all the birthdays for January, one day a month they'll have a little party, and then everybody brings something and they have that kind of stuff. So that's really cool. Travel opportunities. South Korea is the hub of Asia. Why do I say that? Geographically located, Korea is in between China and Japan, right? Within a 5-hour flight, you can be in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, Bali. You know, it's cheap. You can fly to China. The cheapest flight is to either Fukuoka, Japan, or to Hainan, China. They're both about $200 round trip. It's just amazing. We go to Southeast Asia every single winter. We alternate between 3 or 4 different countries just for the fun of it, because you can travel. You get lots of opportunities to travel. Why? You get, I'll tell you later, as part of the benefits, you get 2 weeks vacation, 5 days in the winter, 5 days in the winter, plus the weekends, it's like 9 days. You get chuseok, solar. Those are 3 to 5 day weekends. There's also about 10 different national holidays. So there's lots of travel opportunities. And I tell every person, once you've been in Korea for 6 months, start planning your exit or your second year or your trip in between signing your second contract. Why? You go to Thailand. I went for a month with 3 other teachers. We paid $1,500, lived like kings, and backpacked and basically in beach bums for a month. It was amazing. Yeah, of course, you have to go to Busan to travel during the winter. You have to go to Soraksan in the east. There's so many places. Gyeongju is the historical capital of Korea. Jeju Island is the Hawaii of Korea. So many places. And I can talk for an hour on food and still not go over everything. You see here, there's soju on the top right, beer on the left. Together, it's called somek, soju plus mekju, with mekju beer. Here, that's the best thing to me about Korean culture is the collectivist society. Sitting around a table, everybody's cooking the food together while you're talking. Back home, everybody just sat down, ate, and left, right? But here, it's all centered around the meal, about conversation, about sharing food, sharing alcohol, using 2 hands to pour, 2 hands to receive, to show respect. This is quintessential Korea. This is what I love the most about Korea. And of course, well, okay, I love saving money even more, right? That's even better because you think about it, you're getting your free housing, you're getting paid 13 months for 12 months worth of work. There's opportunities to pick up private classes. I can answer that later in the questions if you want. I saved $25,000 my first year in Korea. Yeah, that's a bit different. I worked like a dog and I took every private class I could. But I wanted to pay off my $50,000 in student loans when I graduated. So it's a great place to do it. Korea, you can save more money in Korea than working in any other country teaching ESL. Can you make more money in Japan and Hong Kong? Yeah, of course, but you don't get free housing. You have to pay out of your own pocket for your housing. So if you want to save the most money, Korea hands down is the best place to work. I would say Taiwan is a far second place. That's your saving lots of money. That's the Oman won, the 50,000 won notes in Korea. So 4 things to prepare for Korea. Now this is important. What are you going to do? This is the nuts and bolts, getting your ducks in a row. Well, for one, you have to have your criminal record check. In America, it's the FBI criminal record check. In Canada, it's the RCMP. It's the CD or CDI or CDA. I can't remember for the UK and Ireland. It's basically the National Criminal Record Check, and it must be apostille notarized, except for Canadians. Canada did not sign the 1966 Hague Agreement, which allowed every country that does an apostille document must accept an apostille document. So in Canada, you have to go to a Korean consulate, go to a solicitor, get it notarized by a public notary, then get it authenticated by the Korean consulate. But in the UK or the United States, you need to have the criminal record check and your copy of diploma with apostille. And your diploma must be from one of the 7 native English-speaking countries to be considered. And you must be a native English speaker from one of the 7 English-speaking countries. You have to have a passport with at least 6 months validity on it. You also have to fill out the visa application and the health check. Let me just spend one moment talking about the health check. It's going to ask you, are you a drug addict? Are you an alcoholic? Do you have any mental disorders where you have to take medication? If you answer yes to any of those, you probably won't get a visa, except if you're taking medication, if you get a note from your doctor explaining why you're taking it and how it will not affect your teaching in Korea. We've helped a lot of teachers working with the schools. We have to tell the school, disclose it because you're working with children. And if the school is fine, then they're okay as long as you feel that it will not affect your teaching or affect you in any way negatively, and you'll be able to do your job. Then they will basically vouch for you, and they'll say that they're fine that you're taking that medication. So no worries about that. Just there's some other things that you can do if you don't want to disclose it. I can answer that in your in the Q&A afterwards if you like. But remember, this is very important. The criminal record check, it's only good for 6 months from the date of issue. So your copy of diploma with apostille, that's good forever, it doesn't matter, but you have to first get it notarized by a public notary, then by an apostille. I can give more detailed information about that if you need at the end. Teaching materials. The cool thing is the schools we work with, myself, I work with about 20, 25 schools for two major chains of schools. My wife, Yumi, she is the other half of our company. She works with about 70 different schools. She works with 3 or 4 major chains of schools and about 24 independent schools. And there's a bit difference in the curriculum. The curriculum that my schools are very top level schools, and they provide way too much curriculum. So teachers are like, how do I get through all the material? But it's great for first year teachers. Why? They show you how to teach and how they want you to teach that material. They give you everything that you need and show you, here are your classes, here are the ages, here are the books, here is where you start, this is what you go through, and teach this material. So it's like they handhold you, right, as you're going through. I'm sorry, I have a teaching assistant. His name is Mr. Bangletech. He always comes in, especially when I'm teaching or when I'm doing webinars for people. He's massive. He's like this. But anyway, where was I? Oh, teaching materials. In some schools that are like in the smaller cities, they're more like sometimes you have to do your own material on top of the material that they provide. I can help you with that. I have tons of material that I can send to you with PowerPoints, links to all these different websites. But there are some things that I would prepare before you come. Think about like going to the dollar store or Daiso or the Dollar Tree, whatever these little stores are in your country. And there's so many things that you can buy, like Target, whatever. The like little booklets that have things that you can do photocopies and printouts, word searches, puzzle books, all these things. They're fun to do. Bring some games. I would bring Uno. It'll make you $1 million. Or Uno cards and Scrabble and things like this. Monopoly, I played with my more advanced elementary school kids. They loved it. That's something I do once a month for fun. Survival thing. Oh, one more thing about teaching materials. I think it's important that I'm a professional educator. I have a bachelor's of education. I have an MBA. I have a PhD, but my BA was in secondary education. Why was that important? Well, the first day, the first class, they go, oh, Mr. B, oh, your first class. It's the baby class. I said, baby class? And they said, oh, it's new class. And they're like, oh, they're 5 years old. No, that's 5 Korean age. They were 3 years old. And I'm thinking, that's like nursery school kids. I'm like, they barely speak English. How in the hell am I supposed to teach these kids? I learned how to teach middle school, high school, upper elementary school. Well, what I learned is this. Having a bachelor's of education just teaches you to prepare, over-prepare. So that's exactly what I did. And I created everything, white big butcher sheets of paper, make songs, and you draw the pictures, and then make flashcards from the pictures. You laminate them, make 2 of them, do memory games, do flashcard games. I gamified everything. So that way I can do another thing about classroom management, how to teach and how to not lose your mind while you're teaching. So that's a Q&A at the end. I can give you information about that. Survival Korean, I'm no genius. I learned to read Korean in 1 day. I literally memorized the vowels and consonants. There's only 1 grammatical rule and you can read everything. Just listen to a native speaker when it's like, ya, oh, yo, ooh, you, like this. So that way you know the right pronunciation. And everybody thought I was a genius because I could read Korean. No, it's easy. That's why Koreans are so proud of Hangulmal, because it's very scientific. It was made in the 16th century by King Sejong. Anyways, I'll skip over that, but that's a really good one though. WikiHow, how to speak Korean. That'll help you with like the 30 sentences. Mindset. You must go to Korea with the correct mindset. If you have two people that have exactly the same jobs, the same experiences, meet the same people, everything, one person goes, you know what? I had some ups and downs, but I had an effing amazing time. Best time of my life. And the other person who had the exact same experience says, oh, I didn't like it because it wasn't like America or Canada or UK, whatever. The problem is, if you go there like, hey, I'm mind wide open. I want to be flexible, laugh at myself, and just look at this as a great adventure. And the person who has a negative time basically is they are ethnocentric. They compare Korea to their country, and Koreans are doing everything wrong. But when you realize Koreans made Korea so it's comfortable for Koreans, not us visiting foreigners. So when you keep that in mind, you realize that, hey, with the right mindset, you're going to have a fantastic time. So, interview tips. Sorry, I'm talking faster because I realize I should be done in 5 minutes. So, and I still have 3 slides left. Interview tips. Let me tell you this. Self-introduction video. If you want, I'll send you examples. But this is especially, Koreans prefer North American accent. Why? Because all the university exams, the listening exams, speaking exams, all have a North American accent. So that's why it's preferred. But of course, anybody from one of the 7 English-speaking countries, one of the 7 English-speaking countries can get jobs there. But what's the easiest way to get hired or to get an interview is have a self-introduction video, 1 to 2 minutes max. Who you are, why you want to teach in Korea, why you're passionate about kids, etc. I'll give you examples. If you want to increase your chances of getting hired, like in Seoul, or to increase your chances in general, make a sample demo lesson, 5 to 10 minutes. For kindergarten, how to do pronunciation, how to teach a song, walking, walking, jump, jump, jump. Anything like that is gold, and you'll get a job easier. Interview physical setup. You'll find, like, if you look, I'm eye level. I have a nice background in my Zoom. I'm dressed appropriately. Those are just the physical setups. I have the light on above me and the light on in front of me, so that way the lighting is good. Those are just the physical settings. Remember, interview, you have to tell them why you love teaching kids, that you're passionate, that you're flexible, that you can't wait to come to Korea. Don't talk for 10 minutes about K-pop, because that means you're coming for the cultural experience, not for teaching. Remember, it's your job. It's not coming to enjoy, clubs and that kind of thing. Sometimes people forget that they're coming here not just to enjoy Korean culture, but also the main focus is to teach kids, because 90% of the jobs are kindergarten in the morning, elementary school in the afternoon. 10% are afternoon teaching elementary, and some middle and high school at night. So the last one, mental setup questions for the school. 2 biggest mistakes teachers make, they don't prepare any questions for the school. And also they ask questions that they shouldn't about benefits, holidays, things. That makes you sound like you only care about having fun. What you should be asking is, well, can you tell me what it's like for a typical day for an expat teacher at the school? Can you tell me more about your curriculum, about the age of the kids, the language ability, this and that? That shows that, hey, you're interested, you're vested, you're caring about being a good teacher. Those are the questions you want to be able to ask. Remember, smile. How many people are nervous? They don't smile. That's the most important thing, smiling, being talkative. Saying too much is better than not saying enough. So, and bring the enthusiasm. That's what they want, because you're teaching kids, right? Okay, and everybody knows the photo here, right? So 2 red flags to avoid. If a school does not give you a current teacher's email address to contact, that's a huge red flag. Every school that we work with, we ask for current teacher's email address that you can email, ask questions, maybe set up a Skype talk or Skype time to talk, etc. And the second thing we ask for are housing photos. Why? You're going 7,000 miles to live in another country. Yeah, it's free housing, but you'd like to maybe have an idea of where you'd be living. All of the photos that I'm going to show you in the next slide, these are from 14 different schools that we work with. And we either show sample photos or the actual photos. Normally it's sample photos. Most of the sample photos are actual current teachers' housing photos. So that way you'll know, like, for example, what the schools we work with, they're big. You know, there's 10, 12, 15, 17 teachers. They all live in the same building. And I'll tell you about that. Oh, this is the housing, this is the actual housing, this is the sample housing, this is one of the current teachers' housing, like this. So here we go. So let me move this over. So yeah, you can see a lot of these are called Opustel. It's office plus hotel. So they'll have 3 or 4 floors of like businesses, and then they'll have all these studios and 1-bedroom apartments on top, you know, 10 to 50 floors. And a lot of it, it's all built-in. You can see built-in, that table pulls out into a kitchen table, it has a built-in washing machine. On top of that is like a 2-burner hot plate to cook your ramen or whatever. Here's another one. You can see they're not big. That's about 10 pyong. That's a very standard size, but you can see it like right at the back door is right over behind to the left is where the bathroom is. This one is actually a really nice one. This one's a full 1-bedroom. This is a couple's housing. So you can see it. This is actually a high-rise apartment, not an office cell. So this one, it was specifically, you can see this is the size that you would get if you're a couple. Again, this is another Opustel. They have built-in, so that way there's like storage area. It's very Spartan, so you won't have much furniture. Usually it's just a bed, maybe a desk, and then also built-in, like, or there's a wardrobe or something, a TV, a washing machine, a refrigerator, very basic utensils. Here you can see someone, it's another Opustel. You can see there's a bed, a desk, a TV monitor, etc. This one is a loft. So you can see it's like 15-foot tall ceilings, and at the back above the kitchen and the bathroom, there's like you walk up the stairs and there's like a 4-foot tall ceiling and then a bed. So you walk up the stairs, because that's why it's 15 feet tall. And you can see that someone's living in this one, but it looks very cozy, right? Here's another one, very similar. You can see it's another high rise looking out. I think that might be Seoul or one of the major cities. You know, you have your bed. Again, this one is, I think, in Gwangju. You can see somebody's living there. That's actually a big bed. That's a double or a queen bed. So it's quite a big one. Another, again, most of the beds are going to be single beds. The most important thing, right? The clean bathroom. I think that's one of the most important things. But one of the things you have to remember is you'll never get a bathtub. I had to work for 7 years in Korea to buy a house to get a bathtub, and then once you have a child, you never take a bath, because every time you go in the bath, your child wants to go in with you. So anyways, you have a dream of the bathtub, and when you finally get it, you can't use it, right? So yeah, this is really nice. But I was going to say about bathrooms, another thing that you have to remember, I don't know the word for it, but most of the bathrooms, they don't have a proper shower. They'll have like, you can't see on this one, but it'll have like on the wall above and the wall below where you actually have like the shower head, and it's like the whole bathroom is the shower. Some have like a separate shower, like this one has a separate shower you can see on the left, but a lot of them don't. So, and then you become Asian like myself, and you sit on a stool while you take a shower, and you think that's a life hack. Who stands in the shower when you can sit down in the shower? Sorry, it's once you live in Asia, that's where you take the best of every culture. So, we are partnered with Premier TEFL. We are looking forward to really helping you. We've been placing teachers in Korea since 2005, and it's been a long time. And why us? Well, as I said, we've been working and placing teachers since 2005. And before that, I worked for the Korean government. Actually, a little dirty secret. I was working for the Korean government when I when I created our business. It went from helping a few schools out that were friends of mine to a side hustle to actually making a business. It all happened through serendipity. But I did that full time while I was working full time for the government, because I had a lot of time, so I was doing that. But my wife also worked for the Korean government. the 8 years we were in Chicago, I worked for the Korea Tourism Organization. My wife worked for the Korea Trade Organization. So we were both government employees for 8 years for Korea. And why is that important? Well, we moved back to Korea in 2012 so I could become a full-time professor. And why is that important? That's kind of our story right there. That's my wife, Yumi, and that's my son, Jay. That was 2 years ago, right a few months before COVID hit, when we visited the UK, France, and Brussels, or Belgium. And why is it important? Well, we moved back to start a family, and we came back. My wife stopped working for the Korean government, and she started working full time for our business in 2005. So we're both really, really proud of the fact that we have a really good motto: and no drama. I'm a professor. I can't have any drama. That means you're happy with the school's happy with you. Good teachers, good schools. That's it. If you're not up to snuff, we're not going to work with you. If the school's not up to snuff, we're not going to introduce them to you. The problem is with most Korean recruitment agencies, all they care about is how many butts and seats that they get. They don't care if it's a round hole in a square peg. We only want to make sure that it's a win-win situation for both the teachers and the schools. So as I said, no drama. And I think that's refreshing to most people when they realize that, hey, you're working with another expat who only cares about not having any problems. That means we really care about what you think, what you're trying to do, and we try to fit that. So our promise, as I said, we promise to only work with good schools. And how do we know that? Well, all the teachers that we place, we keep in contact with them. And what's the best way to know a school you work with that you know is good, continues to be good? You keep in contact with the teachers that work there. 10% of the teachers at least are referrals from our current teachers. And I would say about 10% of our teachers that we place are repeat teachers that we've placed before in Korea and said, hey, I want to come back, or I want to try a different city, or I'm thinking about a different school or a different location or whatever. And they contact us, and then they introduce their friends to us as well. And of course, having a great partner like Premier TEFL is another way that we're able to place quality teachers that are TEFL certified. And in Korea, you have to be TEFL certified. Schools won't hire you if you're not TEFL certified. So that's a great way to kind of give you that passport into teaching in Korea. And they'll give you the basic foundation of how to be successful in Korea. But the rest is up to you to make sure that, you do have the right mindset when you do come to Korea. So again, here's the link to be able to apply through Premier TEFL for the jobs and the support and how to get signed up for TEFL. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So if Rosie, if you'd like to look at any of the questions.
Yeah, I'm going to call some out to you from the chat box if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so Addie says, can you do a health check before you get your other documents done? And would it be a problem if you don't have a doctor relating to the medication that you take? Not everyone has health insurance.
Sure. Should I stop sharing the
Yeah,
slide?
you can stop sharing. I'll come back on.
Yeah, okay. So the first one, the health check is a self-health check. That means you fill it out. There's only like 4 questions. Are you a drug addict? You must say no. Are you an alcoholic? You must say no. Do you take any medications? There's 2 things. If you want to be honest about it, because if you lie and they find out, you're going to be fired, or you're going to have your visa taken away, or whatever you call it. So you want to say on there what you're taking and why you're taking it. And you should ask a doctor to write a note why you take it.
Okay, and then we have a question that says, I was born in Eswatini, and then studied in South Africa, high school and university. What are my chances of getting a job in Korea? So I'm going to say that that's somebody holding a passport that is not from South Africa, but from another African nation.
You cannot get a new visa.
Yep,
the only way you can teach in Korea, you have to have a passport from one of the 7 speaking countries. I have a teacher right now that has an American passport, but She grew up in Brazil, immigrated to America 5 years ago, but because she didn't go to high school, middle school, elementary school in an English-speaking country, and her diploma must be from one of the 7 English-speaking countries. I have Americans and Canadians that get denied because they went to the American University in France, which is all in English, but it was in France. I have Canadian teachers that are denied because their degree is from Quebec because they're French-speaking part of Canada.
There's another question here that I might take, which is, so it's a person who doesn't have a native English speaking passport. So they're aware that they won't be able to get the visa to teach in person in Korea. But thinking their idea is to teach business English to professionals in Korea. So, but potentially I'm thinking for this person that they might be able to teach online from another location.
Oh, that's fine. There's nothing that prevents you from teaching online because we're just talking about visas. So if you do, there's several websites where you do not have to be a native speaker. It's just the price that you're fluent or even near native, but you're not from one of the native speaking countries. That does not prevent you from teaching online. Like exactly. Canada, you don't have to be a native speaker.
And Preply is another good one for that. Right, Ali says, are you by yourself or are you co-teaching with another teacher?
Oh, good question. Well, it depends. If you are going through a public school or a private school, a hub one, then you teach by yourself. Classes are usually 6 to 12 students. Let me tell you the difference, right? So if you will go through like EPIC, EPIC is a good program, except for every year they decrease 10% the amount of positions. Now there are only rural positions, and you do not get to choose where you're placed. And also you get 30 days vacation instead of 10 days vacation, right? So those are the positives. And you're a co-teacher, which means you're not a co-teacher, you're a teacher's assistant. That means you're literally a parrot where they go, okay, blah, 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 okay, say hello and say, how are you in English? Oh, how are you? Oh, how are you? Then they talk for 10 minutes in Korean about explaining the grammar about this, right? So that's good for some people, but if you want to have your own class, you want to decide where you're going, you get paid a lot more to work for, maybe not, some positions could be a lot more, some could be about the same, but normally you get paid more for working at a private school. And there's some other benefits. You get to control your own class. You're the boss. You're the one that makes the rules. You're the one that delivers the content, how you want to do it. That's really important for a lot of people, and having that kind of autonomy to be able to do that.
And another question to kind of follow up to that is, typically in Korea, are there behavioral problems in the classroom? You know, what sort of typical class size are we talking? And is it something that is difficult for foreign teachers to keep the class under control? So yeah, to manage. That's another question in the chat box.
Yeah, I could go for hours. I give seminars about this, about teaching, but let me put it into a nutshell. Yeah, so teaching in Korea, I would say this, everybody's nervous, right? But you know what? I'll give you a couple of good tips to be a good teacher. Number one, it's better to be firm to start off with. You can always be less firm later, but if you start off and you let the kids walk all over you, you never get the class back. So that's the first rule they teach you when you're teaching, right? And how do you do that? How do you manage a class? Remember, you're the teacher, you're the boss. Even if you're the most introverted person and you don't like to speak, you have to find your teacher's voice. You have to put on that teacher's mask. And you know what? Kindergarten, you don't teach, you perform. You don't walk in and go, hi class, my name. You walk in and go, hey everybody, let's stand up. Hey, we're gonna get moving. Everybody get up. You got to be energetic for the young kids. Second thing is, you have to have rules. I only have 3. One is like whatever you want. Second one's whatever you want. The third one is be nice. And you put that on the board, and it's like the last one is a catch-all for everything. And you go over those rules every time. It's really funny is kids like structure. They crave it. Why? Because a lot of kids don't have that in their life. So every class, you write on the board, starter, review, new material, closing, and whatever, or warm up. And then you do 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes. And then mine was always game at the end. My teaching style, I gamified everything. So what I did is my carrot and the stick. The carrot was a game. So at the end of every class, for that 2 to 5 or 10 minutes, I would play a game that utilized the information that I did. I turned it into a game. On Fridays, I played Uno for 10 minutes. That's just a pure fun game, numbers, colors, just fun. You know what? Those kids really responded to that, but I'm old school. So what the stick part, I tried to purposely throw a kid out of my class as soon as I could. Why? As soon as I could, because the reason I did it was I put 3 strikes, you're out. Your name, a check, second check, your ass is out of my class. And I made sure that I did that as soon as I could for the first class. Why? Those kids talk. And you know, those kids look at the foreign teachers like we're clowns because we look different. They look at us like, remember when you were in high school and then the foreign or the foreign, your teacher was absent and then the substitute teacher came in and everybody's like, yeah, substitute, because we can be crazy, we can do whatever. They don't know who we are. It's the same thing when us foreign teachers go into the classroom. We have to establish ourselves. That's why you have rules. That's why you have a structure and you always follow it. That's my style. My style may not fit everybody else, but that's why you watch other master teachers and you take, you know, I did student teaching for a long time. I watched many master teachers and I realized, oh, that I can use, that I can use. That's not my style. That's not my style. And you find out what's right for you. Classroom management is key. Number 2 is making sure you prepare, over prepare. Those people who over prepare never feel nervous. Why? I always had 10 lessons in my back pocket. I could teach 10 lessons just using this. Okay, we're going to do emotions. I'm angry. I'm happy. Oh, I'm sad. You know, and you could do like this. Oh, here's my nose. Here's one eye. Here's my eyes. Songs, games, the stuff you can prepare before you leave.
Okay. So a question here about explaining in more detail how to get the apostille stamp and the criminal background check. I think we have links for those for anybody who is looking for that. I think it's quite a straightforward process. Yes, there's a few steps to it, but
Depending on which country.
exactly, that's the
So
other
for
side of
UK
it.
is more difficult because if you Google search like apostille service UK, you'll get from 50 quid to 200 quid. It's a huge difference. So I think you must have some that you suggest. But for America, use Monument Visa Services. Monument Visa Services, I can give you a link to a blog post that I wrote. You can get your apostille notarized documents for Americans within 2 to 3 business days. And I'll show you how to do that. But you have to do like a special instruction to get that.
Okay, that's great. We also have a blog article on the Premier TEFL website for legalization too. So could you explain more about whether you send students to Hagwons or through EPIC, or do you use both?
Right. So yeah, so we only place in Hagwons. We used to place in EPIC, but we had a 3 years ago, we submitted 63 people for 2 years. I guess it was the start of the pandemic. We worked with 60 something teachers, all of getting their documents in order, getting everything, and 7 people got placed. And so that was, yeah, it was terrible. So we decided we're not doing EPIC anymore and we're only doing private schools. So as I said, Yumi and I have separate schools, but we share our teachers. So she may give an interview or I may give an interview, and then we talk to each other, then they have like a second 5 or 10 minute follow-up. Why? Because this way, Yumi has 70 different schools she works with. I have about 25 or so. And depending on what you want, my schools, a little bit longer hours, but they pay a lot better. The other schools are a little bit shorter hours. The pay is lower, but maybe a little bit more relaxed, I guess. So remember, the bigger the city you're in, the more that they expect from you. And you know, I'll get sometimes teachers that say, "Oh, I only want Gangnam, Gangnam, Gangnam." And I had a girl 3 years ago that she's like, "I was a student there. I want to stay in Gangnam." We got her a job. She quit in 3 months or 2.5, 3 months. Why? she couldn't handle moms that are the super wealthy, that they would basically put notes to their kids saying, you know what, you should think about wearing makeup in school. Oh, you know what, we don't like how you do your hair. You know, you should dress more appropriate. You're in Gangnam. Those types of things, you know, because it was one of the most expensive, as Apgujeong actually is where it was. And she said she couldn't handle the stress from the expectations of the moms. And that's something where, you know, when some people, we gave her exactly what she wanted, but you know, when people ask us for, well, there's this neighborhood of Seoul we're looking for, I'll say, good luck, because it's ridiculous. It's like if I said I want to be placed in London and here's an address where I want to be. I want to be right next to this subway station. You know, you'd be like, yeah, good luck with that, right? You
Yeah.
know, it's like a needle in a haystack trying to make those people happy. And
Yep.
the people who say, I want Itaewon, Gangnam, or Shincheon, let's party place, party place, party place, and we just say, you know, thanks a lot. I'll be very honest, we're not working with you. So,
Okay, that's great. And I think a final question now to wrap it up, Brad, because I know it's late for you and we are so appreciative. What you don't know about Korea isn't worth knowing. Um, but last question is, are we ever placed in middle schools or high schools, or is it only primary schools? Well, I think you've said that already. It's from kindergarten right up.
So
So,
for private schools, they're hagwons,
mm,
and it's basically 90% of the positions are or it's kindergarten in the morning, like 9 to noon. You have an hour or two break. Then it's elementary school from, let's say, 1 o'clock to 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, whatever it is. Then about 10% of the positions are elementary school in the afternoon, and then maybe in the evening there could be some middle school or high school students. We do not place in middle schools or elementary schools. And remember, you know, Hagwons are a business first and a place of learning second. So the most important thing is the golden circle. You have fun in your class. Make your class fun to be in, because little Johnny is going to go home and he's going to ask mommy, or mommy's going to ask him, do you have fun in class? And if he says no a couple days in a row, there's 100 schools right near you and she's going to take them out and put them in a different school. The golden circle is the kid says, I like going to school. I like my class. I like my teacher. She pays another month. The director's happy, you're happy, and everything goes very smooth. But if all of a sudden you have a lot of students dropping because you're no fun as a teacher, then that's when things get really bad. And they'll say, you need to improve you need to teach harder. That just means you need to be more fun. Focus on fun with the kids. And then, of course, teaching them English.
brilliant. Brad, thank you so much. Thank you for all your time, your expertise, for your knowledge sharing today has been amazing. And the fact that you are living there, based there, I think that's very important for people to know when they're applying. They know that they're going to have somebody local on the ground to support them through from start to finish. And that is just a brilliant service that you offer.
Oh, we walk them through, like from their documents to the
Mm.
placement, through when they come to Korea, setting up the flights, arrival in Korea, and of course we're here to, you know, if they need to troubleshoot or need help, that's what we're here for.
Thank you. Thank you again for tonight. And thank you for everyone who joined us. And we look forward to seeing you in the next session. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Take care.